Page 44, Rockin Intervals. On the previous page, they give you some exercises in reading in seconds and thirds. Again, I like to use the music for this, so I'm going to skip that page. You can go through that page on your own. Here, we're talking about harmonic intervals. Now, we had intervals before, and they were melodic intervals, and I probably forgot to tell you, oh, by the way, these are melodic intervals. You see, you can have a melodic interval or a harmonic interval, and they're not too difficult to remember, at least for me. Good luck with you. Is you think of a melody as a series of notes. Well, a melodic interval is where the notes are played one after another, or they're not played at the same time, I should say. That's a melodic. Harmonic interval, well, think a harmony is when you have multiple notes and you can hear multiple notes mixed together. Harmony. Well, a harmonic interval is when the notes are played at the same time. That's all. Ooh. So I guess it's easier to say a harmonic interval is when they're played at the same time, and a melodic interval is anything else. At the top of the page, they show examples of harmonic intervals, and we've had these before. The second, remember, the second is where the notes are next to each other. These are all seconds. They're next to each other. Well, in the music, they're easy to see because the notes are cockeyed. They can't put them directly above each other because they would overlap. That gets confusing. We don't want the notes to overlap. So they put them sideways. The point that they're touching tells you right there to play them at the same time. They happen to also have a stem. They're sharing the same stem, and that also tells you to play them at the same time. Some notes don't have a stem, but if they're touching, play them at the same time. Normally, the notes would be lined up vertically, like the second half notes there, the E, C and the E here. There, that indicates you play them at the same time. And that's a third. Remember, thirds I said in the music, they're both notes are on lines or both notes are on spaces. And that's easy. I mean, they're next to each other too. So the lines are next to each other, or the spaces are next to each other. And they're easy to see in the music to tell on those. Eventually, you get the hang of it. So, and that's what it is. Now, I'm not going to play through the top line there. You can do that on your own. You're just playing seconds and thirds. Yeah. I want to talk about rockin' intervals. That's the piece. Let's look it over. You see it's 2 lines long. 4/4 time. See, it's got a repeat sign. We're going to play it twice. It's got a bunch of quarter notes and a half notes in it and some quarter rests. Okay, nothing too tricky here, I hope. So let's look at it one hand at a time. First, the notes and the fingering. We're starting with 4th finger on the F. It puts us in this position. So it's going to be the F and then the E's, 2 E's, and then a D, and then a rest and a D. And then the left hand does its thing. Go down to the next line. Now we have, for the right hand, an E, and 2 D's, and a C, and a C. And then that's it for the right hand. Once I have the notes and the fingering, now I go back and put in the counting. Half note gets 2 counts, remember 4/4 time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. See, the quarter rest gets a count. It's like a quarter note, except you're quiet. And then the second line, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's the right hand. Now we do the same thing with the left hand. And these, if you're going to say the notes, I recommend you get in the habit, if you can, to say the bottom note first and go up. We typically will build harmony from the bottom up. So we think of things from the bottom up in music. So here it's 2-1 on the F and the G. And then you have an E and a G. You have 2 of those. And then F and G again. And the second line is the same thing. That's the left hand. Now we put in the rhythm. 1, 2, and I'm lowering the hand. I just put the fingers in place where I want, and I'm just lowering the whole hand down. Try and listen carefully to get these down at the same time. 2, rest, rest, and then we go down the second line. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Then we get the left hand. Okay, now let's put the hands together. Because right now it's not hard because you're only playing one hand at a time, but later on when you're playing both hands at the same time, it gets tricky. It's almost like relearning the hands when you put them together. So that's why it's so important to learn them one hand at a time first, so at least you have a head start when you go to put them together. So here, both hands are on the keyboard, and we just 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. And you go through the whole piece. I'm going a little fast. You can go slower. Any speed. Doesn't matter how fast you do this. It's up to you. Just the beat has to be steady. You can't hesitate anywhere. If you hesitate, if you what was that? Work on that spot and get rid of that hesitation. Don't allow the hesitations to continue because they get to be a habit and they're hard to get rid of once it becomes part of your playing. And don't want any of that. So get rid of them. Work on those. Then once you have all that, let's go back and add the dynamics. It says it's loud. That's the only dynamic given. It's up to you what loud is. Just play it loud. Not really loud, just loud. Whatever. And that's pretty much the piece. Then the last thing we might try for now is the speed, the tempo. What's the tempo? Well, the place where the tempo goes, it just says brightly. It's not really a tempo. But a lot of times in this space where the tempo goes, instead of a tempo, they give you the mood. And the mood tells you how fast or suggests to you how fast you might go. Brightly, be bright about it. I haven't had enough coffee for brightly yet, so I have to fake this part. It's just brightly. Rest, 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 whatever brightly is. If you were going to sing it, and sing it brightly, how fast would you sing it? And that might tell you how fast you want to go. If you do want to sing it, I recommend you learn it first and then add the words, because that's just another thing you got to add on. I don't do singing in my videos. I don't want to drive anybody off. So you can do the singing on your own. That's fine. I can't hear you. It doesn't matter to me, so it's okay. But let's try this together. Now I'm assuming you've learned it. Go learn it. Come back and let's check and make sure you have the right notes and the right rhythms. Just listen carefully to make sure you play along with me, the same that I'm doing. And I'll give us 4 counts. 1, 2, ready, go. 1, 2, 1, rest, rest, 2, rest, rest, 2, rest, rest, 2, rest, repeat, 2, rest, rest, 2, rest, rest, 2, rest,